Welcome to the Dream Plan Start Grow Show, where the goal is to provide you tips and tools to create and execute your business plan for success. Welcome to the Dream Plan Start Grow Show. My name is Allison Turner. I started these interviews because I really love entrepreneurship. I believe we can learn from each other. And whether you're brand new to business, want to start a business, or you're a seasoned entrepreneur, check out my Dream Plan Start Grow show to level up your game. Today, I'm super honored to have with me Glenn Lundy. He is the recent winner of Best Speaker in America, which I know is a huge deal. He's a founder of the 800% Club. He has a clubhouse room called Breakfast with Champions, which I know has over 188,000 followers, but that's soon to move over to the Twitter Spaces. And you're husband to one and father to 8. And I know you're always on the cutting edge, which I can appreciate listening to your show in the morning. So
thank you.
Glenn, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Honored to be here. I appreciate you having me.
So I know some of your story just from listening to you. I mean, I typically listen to most of your, you're the one that's motivated me to get up at 4 a.m., which
yes,
my fiance, who's the night person and I'm the morning person, thinks I'm crazy. He's like, you're doing what now? 4 a.m.
Right. That's bedtime for you people.
Yeah, he comes to bed sometimes like at 3, I mean, rarely, but 3, 4, and then I'm getting up, So,
right.
So yeah, usually it's between 12 and 2, but occasionally it's a little later and I'm like, what time is it? I'm like, I'm getting up right now.
That's right. They call us the crazy ones, but I sure love the sunrise, man. I never want to miss the sunrise.
Yeah, although I go walk, I'm usually exercising when I am listening to you at 5:30 a.m. And of course now with this stupid time change, it's like pitch black out. And so I've been going to the gym instead of walking outside because I'm like, okay, well, I can see the darkness all the time. But
Right.
So the funny story is I found you originally because when I was brand new to Clubhouse and someone had given me the invitation back in January of, I think, 21 or something.
Yeah.
And, had the iPhone or whatever. And so I went in and I think, you put all like what you're interested in, and like Breakfast with Champions was the first thing that popped up. And I was like, oh, okay, let's flip over here. I will say that I probably haven't gone that far outside of Breakfast with Champions. I follow a few other things, but, because you can easily go down a rabbit hole on Clubhouse, but I found you, and I think that was at like 6 a.m. And so you were discussing the recap of your show, and I was like, well, what the hell show is he talking about here? And so I had to then I had to start getting up at like earlier to listen to the 5:30, and now it's progressed to getting up at 4. So I don't know if I'll ever meet your 3:20 a.m. one. That's a little bit too much, but
hey, I wouldn't get up at
3:20
a.m. if I didn't have to. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So share with my listeners kind of how you got started. I know you were in the car industry for many years, and then all of a sudden you just went out on your own. So share a little bit about that story.
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to run what was originally a small family-owned dealership in a small town, and I got the opportunity to be one of their leaders, and we were able to grow 800% in just under 6 years. And I decided to leave after being there for 8 years. I decided to leave and, really take some of the methods and the strategies that I learned through that experience out to the world. So now we're serving dealers, all over North America, helping them grow 800%. But it's been a crazy kind of journey the last few years, and a big part of that was a consistent daily morning routine and having a morning show filled with motivation, education, and inspiration, which helped to develop my ability to speak and my network and all of these things. So yeah, that's where the 800% comes from. Is we grew that store 800% in a small town, population 9,600 people. It was crazy.
Yeah. And I know a little bit. I worked with someone from Paris, Kentucky, like years ago, and I was like, where the heck? I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in Indianapolis, and I was working in Chicago at the time, and the person was like from Paris, Kentucky, and I had to go look at a map to see like where Paris, Kentucky was, because I knew like Louisville and Lexington. I knew the bigger cities, but some of those little towns you don't really hear much about. And I was like, Paris.
Yeah.
So
it is tiny. It's a tiny little place.
Yeah. And that's super impressive that you were able to grow 800% for such a small population. So obviously people were coming in from the outside of Paris, Kentucky.
Yeah, we were selling more cars per year than there were people in the city. So there's population 9,600, and we were selling over 10,000 cars a year.
So what were some of your kind of initial struggles, like when you decided to, quit the job and go out on your own? Because I know I've heard some of that story, but what were some of the initial struggles on kind of getting started in business?
Yeah, the first year, I didn't know what the heck I wanted to really do. I just knew that I had maxed out the opportunity where I was. And I knew I didn't want to get back into, when I was running that dealership, I was working 60, 70 hours a week. I was leaving at 6 a.m, getting home at 10 o'clock at night, many days. And I knew I didn't want that. I didn't want to trade all of my time for money, right? And so I spent the first week, the first year kind of seeing what other people in the training and consulting space were doing. How did they work? What were they charging? What was their process? And how would that fit with my core values and what I was trying to do and what I was trying to accomplish? And so it was really a lot of, just exploring in that first year, trying to get a feel for what is my zone of genius? How does it add value to the marketplace? And I think that can be a struggle for a lot of people. I think that's not uniquely my struggle. Really asking yourself that question: where do I bring the most value to the marketplace, and how can I be successful, chase down dreams, do all of those things, and have great relationships with my spouse and a great relationship with my kids. And, I want the and. I don't want the sacrifice. You got to give this up for that, and so on and so forth. I think that's a preconditioned belief system that's not real. I think we if we're very intentional, I think it's very possible to have it all. You can win in all those areas. And so that was the biggest struggle, is just really figuring out, how do we stick to our core values? How do we not just get sucked right back into the same 70-hour weeks that I was at before? And how do we turn it into a profitable, unique value add where we can serve and make an impact in more people? And, so over time I started to figure out, well, there's tools that we can use, and there's techniques and strategies that we can apply that we've learned over the last few years. We can apply in our business, and we can help others apply in theirs. And, fast forward now, the company's growing and thriving, and we have 13 employees at this point, and it's a multi-million-dollar company. We're serving hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people in the automotive space all around the country. And time-wise, I am required to, and I say required, I'm the boss, so it's a loose required, but I'm required to be in front of my clients 2 hours a week. It's 2 hours a week that I have to be somewhere. The rest of the time is what I choose to do with it. Like, I choose to do this interview with you, or I choose to do my shows at 5:30 in the morning every day. It's all a choice. And so it's just fascinating what you can do when you get very intentional about what it is that you want from your life. And what a great time to be alive, where there's technology that allows us to build and create whatever it is we want to build and create.
Oh, absolutely. And it sounds like you had a little bit of a financial runway where you could take a little bit more time and obviously still make some money speaking or different things, but maybe not just jump right into a business, which some people maybe don't have that financial runway to kind of take a year to figure that out. What would you suggest for someone that feels like, they've maxed out a job and they want to start their business, but they're not really sure kind of where to go on that first step?
Yeah, obviously, having some resources is important. We don't want to end up homeless. We don't want to end up destitute. We don't want to end up in a desperate situation, where we make poor decisions, or all of those things. And so, what I suggest is if you've really, really, really maxed out the opportunity at work, like at your current job, like really maxed it out, like you've climbed as high as you can climb, right? Like I went from salesperson to sales manager to general sales manager to general manager. The only thing higher than general manager would have been partner, and they made it very clear that they weren't ever going to allow anybody to be a partner. So
Right.
at that point, if you've really maxed out an opportunity, there should be revenue connected to that. And
Right.
if you don't have any money, then I would suggest take some time to learn wealth building strategies, learn more about how to handle your money. Because I've seen people make $30,000 a year and become millionaires, right? So it doesn't really matter what level you're there. There's ways, you read the richest man in Babylon, and you tithe 10, you save 10, you invest 10, you live on the 70, right? So I think it's important. I think sometimes we say we've done everything that we can do, maybe with our business or with a company. But typically, if you've really maxed out the opportunity, you should have some resources go along with it, unless you're just like totally, gambling every night or something like that. Something crazy. So that's what I would say. I would say let's be honest first before we take the leap. Have you truly maxed out the opportunity, or are you bored, frustrated? You're only giving 50% effort, that type of thing, right? I gave 800% effort every single day for 8 years at that company. And so I knew there was nothing else I could squeeze out of that lemon. And it was comfortable. I was very comfortable making the shift. So I guess that would be my suggestion. Take some some money management courses before you quit your job. Make sure you're in a good financial position to be able to have a little runway so you can figure things out. Otherwise, what you do is you're going to quit the job, and a week later, you're going to be at another job that you hate just as much. Like, you're just going to be in the same spot. So play the long game instead of the short game, and develop a strategy and a plan to get out.
Okay. No, that sounds good. And that's what I would tell people in the business coaching world before just making that jump. Because if you don't have the resources, because you can start a business on low resources as long as you feel like you're really good in sales and can convert immediately, then you don't need necessarily a ton of money to start a business, especially a service business.
Right.
But
you need cash flow.
You still got to convert.
Yeah, and cash
exactly.
flow is so important. You got to have cash flow. So even if you start your next thing while you're still getting a check, from the other thing, that's cool too. Start learning, start exploring, start building, start doing all those things. But you don't want to just turn off cash flow. That's not a good spot to be in. Believe me, been there. You don't want to be there.
Yeah, especially if you have a family and a mortgage and all those good things that go with cash flow.
Yes, that is correct. Especially if you are alive in 2023 and you are an adult. You need money. So you got to put gas in the car. You got to put food in your belly. Yeah. You got to keep the lights on, and all of that takes money, like it or not.
So how critical do you think your Breakfast with Champions, your Rise and Grind show, which became a couple other things, and now it's gone back to the hashtag Rise and Grind brand, how critical do you think that was kind of in your journey, through, I know you started it before you left that dealership and then kind of continued it over the time, but how critical do you think that's been in your success?
It's been the single most impactful thing that I've done in the last 5 years in many areas. Once I became the type of person, because you have to shift who you are, right? If you're going to go live every day at 5:30 in the morning, you have to become the type of person that can go live every day at 5:30 in the morning and still be the most energetic person in the room. And you have to look yourself in the mirror every day for 30 minutes while you're talking. And if the words that are coming out of your mouth don't match your actions on the outside, like you can't keep it up, right? I noticed that very early. I'm like, oh, this is a great strategy. I'll share it. And then I'm like, but I'm not actually doing that. So if like, I probably shouldn't share things I'm not doing, or I need to expand my wisdom and knowledge and be doing the things that, that I advise other people to do. This is not a do as I say, not as I do type of deal, right? It's you gotta walk it, you gotta live it. And so it impacted me. It made me a better man. It helped my relationship with my wife get even stronger because she sees me committed, going to bed at 11, getting up at 3:20, pouring into people everywhere she goes. In our little small town of Paris, Kentucky, people are like, your husband, encouraged me to do this. I'm waking up at 4 a.m. now. I'm working out. I've lost weight. I've quit this. I've gained this. Like, she's getting that. So it's really helped our relationship. My kids see how disciplined I am. They rock the Rise and Grind gear, the Rise and Grind hat. They've been to events and met some of their heroes and some of my heroes at different events. The network, the connections, the friends, the relationships that it's built over the years, incredible. The speaking acumen. I mean, I've basically done a 30-minute. I was talking to my pastor at my church about Rise and Grind, and he said, "Wait a minute. So you do a 30-minute show every day, 5 days a week?" I'm like, yeah. He's like, dude, I give a 25-minute sermon once a week, and that's enough, right? And he's like, you're doing it 5 days. I can't even imagine. So, I've done 1,176 25-minute sermons, if you want to call them that. And that's really helped my ability to speak and my ability to adapt and my ability to extract the lessons, because I always want the content to be fresh. So I'm extracting lessons all the time, which has caused me to be a better learner. I learn more. I read more. I dive into my Bible more so I can study the greatest leader in the history of the world. Like, it's impacted everything, including my business. 90% of my clients first found me watching that show. So it's definitely impacted the business as well. But really, I think most importantly is it impacted the man. The man that I am today could not have maintained, operated, or in any way, shape, or form been able to build what we've been able to build so far. So I definitely credit Rise and Grind and the morning routine to that.
Yeah. And I think there's so many entrepreneurs out there today that they see the video as like a good business strategy, but then they don't do it. They don't like video. They don't want to see themselves on video. They want to hear themselves on video. I mean, I was that person a couple of years ago as well, and kind of got myself more comfortable speaking and then going on video. But I think it's such a key strategy in this day and age, because of how you can get in front of so many people, all over the world. It doesn't have to be in just Paris, Kentucky, or the United States. It can be all over the world. And maybe that's not your ideal client in Europe or somewhere else, but you never know as your business, expands. And I know you're expanding right now with some other sales programs and things that are outside of the car industry. So those could be your ideal clients now.
Yeah, indeed. And, I think a lot of people have a tough time with video in the beginning because it really does require you to be authentic and real. And a lot of people are wearing masks, they don't want to face, the reality. So it's not necessarily, I don't like how I look or I don't how I sound. It's that I'm not being true to who I am. I think that's what why most people struggle with video initially, because it really forces you to look in the mirror. I had a friend who I was trying to get her to do live videos, and she said, Glenn, here's the problem with live videos. She said, when I do a live video, I have my phone, and she said, I look just like this. And she said, and this is the exact position that I hold my compact when I put on my makeup. And I'm just looking in the mirror and I see every flaw. I see every wrinkle, my double chin, all of these things. And she was like, so every time I go live, I'm looking at all my flaws. And my response to her was, yeah, you're right. And they're not just physical. It's the psychological flaws, the mental flaws, and we do have to address those things. And that's why it's so powerful, because nothing else can address those things but us. Nobody sees you the way you see you, right? So the more time we can spend, being truthful and honest with ourselves, I think it's such a powerful gift that we've been given to be able to do that. If you think about our ancestors, they didn't get to do that, they didn't get to really look at themselves and they just kind of had to live their life on however they lived their life. But man, what a great time to be alive it is now.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's only changing, obviously. I know you've talked about AI. I own a marketing company and business coaching company. So I deal with AI all day long and learning kind of the new stuff around AI. So, what do you think the biggest change is going to be with AI?
Oh, I love it. I think the biggest change when it comes to AI is what Ross Dawson said. Ross Dawson is said to be one of the greatest futurists of our time. Bill Gates, Elon Musk, all these guys, they credit Ross Dawson with being an incredible futurist, the Nostradamus of our day. The only difference between Ross Dawson and Nostradamus is Ross Dawson has way more data than Nostradamus did. He has access to way more data. And Ross Dawson says that technology and humanity is going to evolve 2,000 years in the next 100 years. And so when you reverse the math on that, because it's hard to process 2,000 years or 100 years even. And so when you take the math backwards, that's 20 years. I'm sorry, that's 100 years of advancement in the next 5 years. 100 years in the next 5 years. And so that's hard to swallow at first. You're like, okay, wait a minute. So if I'm starting at flat zero, I can build in the next 5 what used to take 100, right? Corporations like Coca-Cola, Ford, all these massive mega corporations took them 100 years to get to where they are today. You can now do that in 5. And I think AI is like showing us how that's now possible. I created 120 pieces of content on Sunday in an hour. I'm not a film editor. I created a song for the show this morning. I'm not a musician. I created art pieces in seconds. I'm not an artist, right? And so AI is just accelerating our ability to get from point A to point Z, right? In a way that we just never could before. So to me, that's the most exciting part is now it doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter if you got 2 nickels to rub together right now. You can literally start today and build a mega multi-billion-dollar company in less than 5 years. And if you don't believe me, just look at Tesla. Tesla came into the industry, and in 12 years, they're now the number 1 most profitable car company in the world, and have been for a few years now, right? They did like this what these other companies have taken forever to do. So that to me is the coolest part, just the speed. Let's go. We can go fast now. I like to go
and I
fast.
think it really levels the playing field, which is the biggest thing I see, because I deal with a lot of business owners that have a marketing budget, but maybe they don't have $100,000 budget every month, or $50,000 budget. They have maybe a couple $1,000 budget. So we can do certain things for them, and then they can do a lot of it themselves because, like you said, you've got programs out there that can cut content like this podcast. I can put it into, and I knew about that tool you mentioned the other day, the video.ai or whatever it's called, or IO. Yeah. I've been using that. I can stick it in there, and a few minutes later, I have like 17 short clips. And
what a gift.
So I think that's one of the key things is it really levels the playing field. You don't have to be the Coca-Cola, the Tesla, the whoever, and have some huge marketing budget. Now you can actually do it yourself and be as successful if you're intentional about it as those major companies.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So changing directions for a second, we've talked about your speaking and the Rise and Grind show and doing that every day. And I know you're on, what episode are you on now? 1100 and something?
Yeah, 1,176.
Okay. So obviously you also discussed
a lot of episodes.
Yeah, I know. I know. I think I released number 46 of this week, so I started last year and I'm releasing one a week. So I get a lot of episodes because I'm like, and apparently most people that start podcasts don't even make it to 50. So I'm like, well, at least I'm in the, in the small majority, I'll make it to 50. But you're way up there with the over 1,000 episodes.
So crazy. I never would have imagined.
Yeah, exactly. But how has that impacted, because obviously I know you just won Greatest Speaker in America, which was Grant Cardone's big contest to find the greatest speaker in America. Like, how did that really help you get to that place, which obviously is probably going to accelerate your speaking career and people trying, and being able to charge bigger money for speaking and keynoting and whatnot?
Yeah, it just, practice makes perfect. Tiger Woods goes out and, the reason Tiger Woods made so many putts wasn't because he sat around and visualized making putts. It's because he did 1,000 putts a day. Like, he just every day, just repetition. And, my show has become that. It's just, it made me a better speaker. It gave me a better understanding of the English language. It helped me to understand how audiences react and interact and the importance of saying people's names and making them feel seen, heard, and significant. And so when I went out on for that competition, there was 27,000 people that entered into the Great American Speak Off. And there was about 160 of us that made it to Miami for the live auditions. And then from those 160, they went to 4 of us at the big main event. And once I got to the big main event, it came down to the audience to choose the winner. And I had spent so much time over the last few years engaging audiences that I knew that not only was my 3-minute speech important, but what I did when I walked on the stage was important. What I did as I was walking off the stage was important. And so if you ever get a chance, you watch the videos, you'll see that when I come out, I'm immediately engaging with the audience, talking to the audience, getting the audience to freaking get riled up, right? And then I give the keynote, and then afterwards, I'm like talking. The judges, forget the judges. Like, I'm talking to the audience. I need the audience. I need you guys to get freaking loud, right? Because this is a voting thing. And on my way out, I'm high-fiving and, taking pictures with people. Whereas a lot of the other speakers came out, spoke, and went back to their, maybe gave a little parade wave on their way out. And so all of these little tiny things were learned through doing this show, man, this crazy stinking show. And so it's made me better in every way, in literally every way.
Yeah, no, I think that's like essential in, our life. And I think there's different ways to market oneself, and, speaking is one great way. Video is another great way, because in this day and age, it's really about branding yourself, unless you're working for some major corporation and it's the corporate brand. I mean, people know me as the owner of a marketing company, but I'm really branding me because they want to work with me because of what my company brings to the table versus, hey, we got to go to BatCat Media. Like, no, it's, hey, I know Allison or I know Jack, and that's who we want to work with, as opposed to the company name. Yeah. And I think anytime we're in small business, that's what it is at this point. And so speaking is one of the great ways to be able to brand yourself. And obviously you've made that great combination of video, live streaming, and speaking all in one. So you're, maxing it out. And consistency, which is obviously the biggest key of all those pieces is doing whatever the strategy is, doing it consistently.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
even
You
when you have,
definitely have to keep showing up.
yeah, even when you have the technical glitches in the morning or learning a new platform like Twitter Spaces. And
I have a lot of those. I have a lot of the technical difficulties. That's for sure.
Yeah, I know. I have yet to go to live streaming this, but I keep looking at it and I'm like, how many technical glitches? I don't know if I would be so. You're always very good and calm about it. I'm not sure I would be so calm about technical glitches.
Go back 1,000 episodes and see how I am when there's technical difficulties. I was like, back then it was the end of the world when I couldn't get this stuff to work. And now I'm just, now you just accept it. Something's going to go wrong every day, just about. So you just got to figure it out.
Right.
Put the pieces together. But yeah, live having the show be live has been the most challenging part with the technical difficulties when I'm traveling, when I'm on the road, when I'm in different time zones. Man, 2:30 in the morning on the West Coast doing a show. Oof.
Yeah.
Those are rough. Those are rough. But get through it, like you said, you got to keep showing up. So.
Right. So I know your family is obviously hugely important to you. And, that's one of the things I always emphasize. And, with entrepreneurship is you really have to, I don't know if the word balance even exists in this day and age, but you have to, like you said, kind of 800% all your areas of your life. And so how has family played into kind of your business at this point in time?
Oh, yeah. All of the decisions that we make are made with my family in mind, my kids, my wife, our visions of the future. They are just as much a part of what we are building as I am. My kids go to events, they travel with me, they connect and build relationships with our clients. They are in all of our social media. They're for lack of a better word, they're models. They're models for our ad campaigns, it's been the greatest gift. I've got 8 kids and they're all each their own unique energy that they bring to the table. And so part of the attraction, a lot of my clients will tell me, they'll say, I'll get 2 things from clients. Well, I get lots of things from clients, but here's 2 things I'll share. One is I'll get a client that says, I'm doing business with you because I see that you are a good father. Like people say that to me often. I'm doing business with you because I see that you're a good father. And then I have people that have been in my program for a long time that will say, I signed up for your program to sell more cars, but ultimately I realized I need to be a better husband. I need to be a better father. I need to be a better spouse. I need to be a better mom. It's amazing, right? It's amazing. And so the kids, my wife, they are my everything. They are really the engine that drives this thing. I'm the hood and the 4 doors and the sleek, I'm the image on the outside, but they're really everything that drives me and drives this company, drives the show. They're really the engine behind it all.
Yeah. I mean, what would you say to someone I know people that want to keep kind of their private life private and, their personal life private. So family, kids, all that type of thing. And then here's their public persona over here. But when they're with the family, it's like, social media shuts down essentially. And I've seen mixed with that because with you, I see your kids and your social media and I think that's what makes you, and that's part of the brand, like you just said,
sure.
Versus some other people that, really separate it and say like, here's the company over here. And here's, my private life over here. And that's off limits.
Yeah. I think that, people have different personality types and we can honor all of that. I also do believe, along with that, though, that there are very limiting beliefs that most people have. And we have been trained in this society. We've been trained and programmed to fear and to worry and to have angst and all of these things. So, I get people tell me all the time, well, I don't want to put my kids on there because there's predators online, there's, so on and so on and so forth. Right. And if you really think about that, I understand that there are evil people in the world. I get it. I totally get it. I'm not discrediting that whatsoever. But if you notice, there's no celebrity kids that are getting kidnapped. It's never a celebrity kid that gets kidnapped, right? Why? Why did Macaulay Culkin get kidnapped when he was a kid, right? Because a kidnapper ain't going to go for the kid that everybody knows, that everybody sees. Like, the kidnapper's going to go find the little kid in the corner that ain't nobody paying attention to, right? And so the way I look at it is my kids, my wife, my family, they're actually safer because we do show them online. Everybody knows that's Glenn's kid. If they see in Paris, Kentucky, everybody knows my family. They know my kids. That's Glenn's kid. Don't mess with Glenn's kid. Like, there's a whole tribe of people that are watching out for my kids all the time. We get calls like, hey, we saw your daughter. She got a new boyfriend. Like, I'm getting the calls, right? And so I think that for those that feel that way, I do understand there's personalities involved, right? And a more introverted personality. I'd say that there's probably certain circumstances where there's maybe reasons for that. But really, I think for the most part, the majority of people, it's out of fear, and it's an irrational fear that is keeping them from sharing those parts of themselves. So, hey, and on top of that, if you do own a business, when your kids are models online, you can pay them. There's some great tax benefits to that too. So my kids get a salary. They get all 7 of them that live here. The 8th one does not, but my 7 kids, they all get a salary, and we get a tax write-off. So that's a bonus.
There you go. Salary on all the kids. Even what's the youngest is 3? Is that right?
The youngest is 2, yeah, and she gets paid. She gets a paycheck every single month because she's in the ads. She's on our social media. She is a part of our marketing, so she's allowed to get a salary. I don't know if it's different state by state, but she's allowed to get paid up to $12,000 a year without any tax stuff, so on and so forth. So yeah, so we pay them all. And then we played the Bill Cosby with them, right? When we started paying them, I'm like, okay, so you get $1,000 a month, right? Okay, great. Now, 40% of that goes to taxes. I take 400. I'm like, this much goes to rent. I take that. I'm like, this much goes to savings. This much goes to investing. This much. And when they're done, they're holding a $100 bill. They're like, where'd the 1,000 go? I'm like, welcome to the real world.
Well, I think that's a great lesson, because there's so many kids. I have a stepdaughter who's 18, and she's working 2 jobs right now, living at our house and trying to save enough money to go get her own place. And I don't think she had a clue how tough the world was until she really started, with the intention of hey, I want to live with my boyfriend, get our own place. Right. Now, all of a sudden, there's the motivation of, I need my own place. And now she's working these 2 jobs. I don't think she particularly loves either one of the jobs, unfortunately, which is a different story. But, but I don't think she had a clue of kind of how much went into it. So I think, your kids learning at that super young age, especially the youngest, and actually all the ones that live with you are, I think, under 13. So they're going to be set by the time they get to 18 or 19, 20, whatever. They'll be ready to they'll understand okay, I can't just here's my $1,000 or whatever they make in a real job, real job. And I can't just go blow the $1,000 because I got to pay taxes and I got to do this. And I got to, do all this stuff, pay some bills. Right.
Yeah. I'm hoping they have some financial literacy when they become adults, because I did not. And no one ever taught me anything about money. I grew up with the generation of we don't talk about money. We don't talk about money. Don't ask anybody what they make. Don't talk to your mom and dad about money. That's how I was raised, is we don't talk about money, which is, I think, is a very middle class mindset, right? We don't talk about money because we're not really proud of how much money we're making. That's why we don't talk about money. And so I'm flipping the script on that. I'm like, in my house, we talk about money. The kids are like, Dad, how much money did you make? I'm like, this much. They're like, how much did you pay for this? I'm like, this much. And my wife always gives me the side eye, like, because she grew up the same way. We don't talk about money, and she's a little more reserved than I am. But I just think it's really important. Let's have the money conversations now, and we'll help them launch with instead of helping them launch with, a trust fund filled with cash, we're going to help them launch with a mind full of knowledge and wisdom,
right?
So that they can go build their own, funds filled with cash. That's my hope.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's super important.
Yeah.
So what have been some of your greatest successes in building this business? Because I know you built it pretty quickly. I mean, if you look at the timeline, it's kind of gone from zero to multi-million dollar in 3.5 years or something like that.
Yeah, technically. So 800% Club launched in November of 2019. So yeah, three years, 5 months from when our first client signed up till now. But there's been a lot of wins. There's personal wins. Once you start to, like, for me, Allison, when I left, I was very successful in the car business, but it wasn't my name on the dealership. I was a part of a team. And so I believed I had value to the marketplace. But there was a little bit of doubt too. Like, will this actually work for somebody else? Did I just get lucky? You start to doubt a little bit. And so a big win for me was when dealers started getting results from what we were teaching. I had one dealership that's been around 50 years, and within 120 days of the program, they're breaking all-time records. Wow. I mean, the business has been there 50 years plus. I had another one that doubled in less than 12 months. They just doubled. Wow. And these are mostly family owned and operated, dealerships. So when they double, it makes a big impact on their family. It makes an impact on their kids. It makes an impact on all their employees, because they all care and love their employees so much. So the biggest wins for me have been seeing clients win. That's when I get jacked up. And that's what really drives us to continue to scale and grow, because I don't care about scaling for scaling's sake. I don't care about scaling for money's sake. Like, I'm good. Like, my family and I we will not starve. We will not go broke. We will not be homeless. Right. So we're good. But there's so many people out there still that we can help. And so that's what drives me every single day, is I'm like, all right, that's good. We need more people. We need more people. We need more people. It's not we need more money. It's we need more people. Right. Now, do we charge those people some money to do what we do? Of course we do. Right. Of course we do. But our intention is to make sure they get a return on that investment. And that's usually what happens. So that's been the biggest win, is seeing the dealers actually win.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's like a huge, huge lesson for entrepreneurship, because so many times, I've talked to people that go into business because, their friend went into this kind of business. And it was easy money, or whatever you want to call it. And so they went into it, but they really don't care about the client themselves. They just, they're not there for that. They're there for the financial impact. And usually that doesn't work. So usually they go down and can't sustain that. Maybe they make the, first whatever, but then they just can't sustain it because they're not they're not in love with the business. They're not in love with helping whoever their ideal customer is. They're in love with the idea of making the money, and that's it. Right. And I think that's the biggest lesson. I mean, I always, stress to my clients is you have to love what you're doing, and you have to see the impact you're making, the greater impact in the world and with your clients and things like that, because then, and then when I see that, that's even better. So I think that's a key lesson in entrepreneurship of like, why go into a business if you don't love what you're doing?
Yeah. Exactly.
And love the results, you're getting for your clients, because if they're succeeding, then you're succeeding, and it only gets better from there.
And if they're not, you're not. Don't forget that side of it. If you're just going after the cash grab, but you're not driving results, I mean, you're not gonna retain clients. You're not gonna get referrals. You're not gonna expand. Like, you're not gonna grow. But when when somebody comes to you and says, "My gosh, being a part of this has really transformed my life for the good," like, that client ain't going nowhere. That client, and they're going to send you, they'll become a brand ambassador for you, a champion for you. They'll tell everyone to come your way. And that's been our philosophy and model. Even when I was running the dealership, is like, don't worry about the profits per unit. Like, that doesn't matter. Let's just bring as many people into this environment as humanly possible to make a positive impact in their lives. And then they'll go out and send us 5 more. So that's how I like to do things. Just focus on the client. Well, focus on my people first, focus on the client second, and the profits will come.
Yeah, so true. So in 2023, what have been, because obviously if you listen to any of the news, I know you don't, but, and I don't really listen to it either, but if you do, you start hearing about the word inflation, you hear, the interest rates are going up. This is happening. I'm down in Florida. I just heard about something today about some insurance law that got passed in the state of Florida that apparently is not good for the consumer side. You hear those things, but what's been has there been any scary situation in your industry, and like, how have you gotten through that?
Yeah, the biggest thing that's happening in our industry that can be challenging for many is we're experiencing a massive compression. And so large corporations are buying up a lot of the mom and pop, family owned businesses. So it's very much like when Walmart swept through the country and just kind of knocked out all the small little grocery stores. That's what's happening in automotive. So
wow.
And then you have outside people like, Tesla that has come into the industry, Rivian's come into the industry. Many of these corporations that are in the electric car world are coming into the industry, capturing attention, selling products, pulling people from the market. They're doing a great job of all of those things. And then you've got, Carvana, another big corporation, that's doing things over in the used cars. So our industry is evolving rapidly. Regretfully, along that path, the people that are getting hurt the most by all of these advancements is the small mom and pop, that's been there for 60 years. And so what I'm seeing is second and third generation owners that have all this weight of, my grandpa bought this store in 1956. My dad took it over in 1980, whatever. And now here I am. And, I've got one young lady in our group, she's got all the weight of that on her shoulders, the weight of 60 years of her family running this organization.
Wow.
But they didn't have to fight with the internet. They didn't have to fight with these huge corporations. They didn't have to fight with Elon Musk. And so it's challenging for her because on one hand, she doesn't want to be the one that destroys the legacy. But on the other hand, if she doesn't scale and grow, it's inevitable that she will become a part of this massive compression that's happening in our industry. So that's the biggest challenge right now. And that's why we do what we do. Is I understand the solution to that is volume, right? Volume solves everything. Right. So if you can get to the point where you're selling enough cars, you create your own ecosystem where customers are constantly coming back. And it doesn't matter if there's a recession. It doesn't matter if there's a pandemic. It doesn't matter if huge corporation comes in and gobbles up everything around you. If you've got enough clients in your client base and you're serving them well, then you can you can operate in your own ecosystem and stay profitable.
Okay. No, that's great. Yeah, because I've heard you talk about it a little, but I don't really know that industry whatsoever. So,
Sure.
so I mean, I think that's interesting because you hear it, like you gave the example of Walmart, and you hear it with some other stores too. I mean, where I live in Delray Beach, Florida, we have kind of the main strip. Well, the main strip in Delray now is so expensive to have a retail store or whatever. You're seeing the bigger companies coming in and putting retail stores there because the mom and pops just can't afford to be on that main strip.
Right.
And people get upset. I'm like, yeah, but when people sold these buildings, for millions of dollars, now obviously the new owner can't give like rent, that's what the rent was, because now their mortgage is, 20 times as much.
Right.
So you have to figure out how to help them a different way. And we have huge restaurants that are coming in that are corporately owned, that have multiple locations all over the country, the world, because the mom and pop restaurants just can't sustain. I mean, we still have a few, but they it's harder to sustain.
Yeah, very much so. It's wild, wild west out there right now, Allison. It is wild, wild west. And there are going to be some big, big, big winners. Big winners during our lifetimes, that's for sure. And our hope is to be on that side. We want to be we want to go out there and make an impact. Yeah.
Well, I think you're already doing that. But so as we start to wind down a little bit today, the one question I always ask of all my guests is if you had one tip that you could give to someone who wants to start a business, any kind of business, that maybe you learned along the way, or maybe you knew right away and has helped you accelerate your growth, what would that be?
Yeah, the biggest tip was actually something that I got from Adi Arazzini. She's a friend of mine. She built a company called Teamy Blends, recently sold it. And she gave me advice early on. She said, the biggest mistake entrepreneurs make is they figure out something that works and they stop doing it. And I was like, what? And she's like, happens every time, right? They'll go out and they'll sell, an entrepreneur wants to sell a t-shirt. So they go, they make the t-shirt as cheap as they can. And then they go sit at the high school gym during the Friday night main event and they sell their t-shirts. Now, once they've sold enough t-shirts, they get to a certain point where they're like, I don't want to go down to the high school gym and sit out there and sell t-shirts anymore. I'm just going to try to sell some t-shirts online. We'll just do them through Facebook Marketplace or whatever it is, right? And they stop doing the activity that got them going. And so I really took that to heart. And so what we do now as a company, obviously things evolve and tools evolve and strategies evolve and so on and so forth. But we got real clear on what the thing that we do right is. And so we bring people together, we equip them with the tools they need to succeed and inspire them to be great. That's what we do in a nutshell, right? And so every decision we make has to fit that because we know that works. Yeah. Now, and we do that in multiple ways now. We do it online. We do it with live events. We do it with a show. We do it with, the membership into our deal. But we're just doing the same thing over and over and over. We're just repeating the same thing. Bring people together, equip them with the tools they need to succeed, inspire them to be great. Bring people together, equip them with the tools they need to succeed, inspire them to be great. That's all we do. We just do it in different forms and we add more layers. And so that would be my suggestion. Figure out what works, nail that sucker down, never let it go, build from there.
Awesome. It's one of those things I haven't heard when I asked that question. I haven't heard that one yet. So, and I think it makes a lot of sense when you stop there and think about it. So, and if anyone wanted to get in touch with you, either was interested in the 800% Club or you as a speaker or something else, like what's the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, just go to glennlundy.com. It's Glenn with 2 N's because I'm twice as nice. However, I do own Glenn with 1 N. So if you type it wrong, that's okay too. But glennlundy.com, just go there and you can connect to all my socials, download my free ebook, book me for an event, any of those things that you'd like to do.
Awesome. Thank you very much for joining me today. I appreciate your time. And, I know I've been to one of your live events up in Lexington a couple of years ago, but, which was awesome and was in your mastermind briefly before you decided to stop it. So if you ever decide to bring that back, let me know.
I will. I will.
But thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. And thank you everyone for tuning into the Dream Plan Start Grow show. As I mentioned before, I love working with new business owners or those who want to start a business. So if you have any questions, please go to dreamplanstartgrow.com and sign up for my complimentary consultation. Thanks again, Glenn. And I look forward to seeing
Allison.
everyone next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Dream Plan Start Grow podcast with Allison Turner. If you like what you heard, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. Join the Dream Plan Start Grow community by following us on Facebook or Instagram at Dream Plan Start Grow. See you in the next episode.